Ryan Walters is trying to make this into a rivalry thing. I think he succeeded.
You are Locked On Huskers, your daily podcast on the Nebraska Cornhuskers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's throw the bones, boys and girls. Greatly appreciate you making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single day. I'm DP. Thank you for making Locked On a part of your day, your Huskers every day. Before we get into today's show and looking down the gauntlet that is Purdue and Ryan Walters, Mark Onweiler, would you please let them know about PrizePicks?
Thank you, DP. This episode of Locked On Huskers is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the largest independently owned daily fantasy sports platform in North America. They're the easiest and most exciting way to play DFS. It's just you against the numbers. You just pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch your winnings come rolling in. PrizePicks offers quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of player and stat types to make PrizePicks the #1 daily fantasy sports apps. Plus, PrizePicks offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts, like their Taco Tuesday promotion. Each Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value. And now, PrizePicks offers Apple Pay for quick and easy deposits into your account this football season. Go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for a first deposit match of up to $100. Again, that's prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for a first deposit match of up to $100. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy. DP, back to you.
Thank you, sir. Greatly appreciate it. Lots to cover in this episode of Locked On Huskers. Again, we thank you for subscribing, hitting the subscribe button, and getting this content. I think that this week will tell more tales. We will know more each week. As the Husker Hall of Famer Jay Foreman likes to say, this season for Nebraska will be the tale of several stories told in weekly increments. And now the story is that this is a 4-3 Nebraska football team. A place that if we said months ago, hey, Nebraska's going to be 4-3 headed into Purdue, most of the Husker fan base would be thrilled. And then if we said, okay, an opportunity to host Purdue, how would you feel at 4-3? Do you feel in a pretty good place? Remembering that Purdue has a new head coach. It's a different program than it was in previous seasons, and it's being run at different forms. But there's some of the things that you need to pay attention to when it comes to Purdue and a new coach. That when a new coach comes in, as Matt Rule has done, some of the verbiage has to be put in place. The common words, the things, the mantras that everybody works from on a daily basis, the things that are said most within the program and around the team. And for Purdue, at 2-5, again, a new coach and trying to establish yourself as a head coach, that Ryan Walters did a thing. And in that thing, he said at their press conference yesterday that he is the son of a Colorado Buffalo. And so he was raised with a disdain and a dislike for the end. The end. That end right there. That one. That he had some dislike. He didn't like the colors. He doesn't like the colors. It makes him feel uncomfortable because he was raised in an environment where Nebraska was an evil empire. And to say it openly is a statement of acknowledging how you truly feel about a thing. And then it becomes fodder for conversation. Whether he should have said it or not, hey, grown-ups, adults, coaches, all in positions to make statements and to kind of direct their people. Well, if you're Purdue and you're 2-5 and you somehow put yourself in a position where you can ruin somebody's season at their place, then all bets are off and you do everything and say everything to get anything as the result. Purdue has had up and down moments so far, and then you walk – I don't think they have Nebraska fear. They don't fear the end. They may have respect for it, but I don't think they fear it. And I don't think realistically there's a rivalry between Nebraska and Purdue. But Nebraska has familiarity with Purdue, and it comes into play here because, quite frankly, Nebraska's on a win streak against Purdue. Nebraska couldn't say that about many. I mean, last year, even in an last week in an interesting situation, Nebraska found a way to beat Northwestern 17-9, and it wasn't their best offensive performance. It was the standard defensively, but offensively it wasn't what they were hoping for. I think, and let me correct myself, Purdue is on the 2-game winning streak against Nebraska, and it's some of the same players who were in play who have these successes. Last year, of course, it was 43-37. Trey Palmer and Casey Thompson had quite the day, but a tough, rough defensive day for Nebraska and their inability to get off the field. But there's some numbers that we like that I want to put into play as we prepare for this week. Again, 2-game win streak for the Boilermakers. Folks have said, okay, this should be a week where nobody wears black. Wrong. Nobody wears the black and gold that is Purdue. You don't need to go to that space. But this is a weird thing, and I wouldn't have bet this, that Purdue actually leads 6-5 in the all-time series. And then at Lincoln, Nebraska, they're 2-2. So the mystique of Nebraska does not come into play when it comes to Purdue because they figured out how to get wins here. Purdue has played a tough schedule. There's no craziness about that. Facing 6 Power 5 opponents in their first 7 weeks. And if you look at the numbers, Purdue has one of the Big Ten Conference's best offenses. They're 4th in passing at better than 230 yards a contest. And they have a run game to supplement it. When we start talking about the 2 runners and then the quarterback themselves, that Nebraska fans should feel some sort of way, because we're familiar with what it looked like to watch Purdue just be able to grind and keep Nebraska's defense on the field. Nebraska's defense is a different type of defense this year, playing at a different level of success. But the reality is, when you look at matchups, Purdue ranks 4th. And I mean, they're in the elite stratosphere of Michigan and Ohio State when it comes to Big Ten offenses. 230 yards a game in the air. There's a lot in play here. So as we go through it, and Nebraska's averaging 16 points a game in its past 2 games. They've given up 16 points in the last 2 games. If you're only averaging giving up 8 points a game in your last 2 days, you feel pretty good defensively about what you're walking into Memorial Stadium with. But then here's the thing. We need to talk about how they match up with Purdue. How do they match up with Purdue? And there's tons of numbers in play, and I like to get to the numbers. Giving opinion about how we feel about the numbers, that's a different conversation for later in the week. But what we can get to is what the numbers say, offensively and defensively, how these 2 teams match up, where they match up in the Big Ten, where they match up nationally, all of those numbers in play. There's lots to talk about a better than perceived Purdue offense, and then what can happen defensively and what Nebraska needs to do offensively. How can they take advantage of it? We'll toward the break when we come back. I do want to get into the numbers, the actual factual numbers. Again, opinions mean one thing. The numbers will tell you where to draw your eyes and where to place your attention when it comes to Nebraska versus Purdue. We'll be right back. Welcome back, gang. Thank you for making Locked On Huskers a part of your day. Again, your Huskers every day. Before we get into some of the numbers in full, Mark Onweiler, if you would please, let them know about LinkedIn.
Thank you, DP. This episode of Locked On Huskers is brought to you by LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. It's super easy. Just add your job description to LinkedIn, add the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile, and spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. DP, back to you.
Thank you, sir. And I want to dive into the numbers that are, because there are several things that you have to pay attention to. That rushing offense. I'll just give you the points. That Nebraska ranks first in the Big Ten in rushing offense at 195 yards a game. That's in the top 20 national, by the way. That 195 yards. Here's where you need to pay attention. That Purdue averages 140 yards a game, 139 yards a game. That's ninth in the Big Ten. But the passing offense, that Purdue averaging over 230 yards a game, is fourth in the Big Ten, 63rd nationally, where Nebraska's 12th in the Big Ten at 133 yards per game, and then 125th now. Total offense, when you talk about the total accumulation, that Purdue averages 371 yards a game, which is sixth in the Big Ten. Nebraska is eighth in the Big Ten at 329 yards. Purdue averages 23 points a game, which is seventh in the Big Ten. Nebraska averages 18.7 points a game, which is 13th in the Big Ten. So from an offensive side, Purdue's high caliber, high level offense against Nebraska's defense. Well, let's go into some of the numbers there. That Nebraska is second in rushing defense in the Big Ten Conference and fourth national. Second in the Big Ten, fourth national. They only average giving up 76 yards a game in the rush game. And Purdue, while averaging 153 yards, or giving up 153 yards, they're struggling with the run game. So there's an opportunity for Nebraska to get some work done. That there's some opportunity in the run game. And we know how Nebraska likes to play this thing. It'll be the patience offense, the death by 1,000 paper cuts by Nebraska versus the big strike ability and the ability to get off the field on third down for Nebraska defensively. Some of the numbers that Nebraska ranks 12th in pass defense compared to 14 for Purdue. They're both right around 240 yards a game, 242 for Purdue, 237 for Nebraska. Total defense, Nebraska's defense is fifth in the Big Ten, 21st in the country at 313 yards a game. Purdue, 13th in the Big Ten, in the top 90, well, actually it's 91 nationally at 396 yards a game. They give up 30 points a game to Nebraska's 19. Again, I think this thing, the numbers will tell you what it needs to tell you, but listen, it's a good system to work from, and it kind of keeps your focus in the right place. Keys to the game: third down offense. That the ability to stay on the field as an offense and get off the field as a defense. Purdue is better at staying on the field offensively. 41% of their third down conversions on third down, is seventh in the Big Ten Conference. 10th for Nebraska, ranked 90 nationally at 37%. That means they're staying on the field and continuing drives. Getting off the field, Nebraska is 10th in the Big Ten, where Purdue is 12th in the Big Ten. Red zone offense, important factors, what you do when you get in the red zone. Neither team is really knocking the lights out when they're in the red zone. Purdue running at 69% efficiency, Nebraska at 65%. Red zone defense, both somewhere in the same vicinity. Purdue at 10 and Nebraska at 12 in red zone defense. And then when there's full-on competition in the Big Ten, there's a thing that generally gets forgotten, and it's special teams. And I wanted to just point out how crazy this is going to be. So Purdue averages 35.5 yards a punt. Nebraska 38.8. 11th for Nebraska in the Big Ten, 14th in the Big Ten. for Purdue. Not so good. But punt returns, Purdue averages 11 yards of return. That's top 4 in the Big Ten Conference. Nebraska only averaging 3 yards of punt return. And then they both defend at kind of a high level, 7.6 and 8 yards on the returns for either teams. But Purdue is better and has been more effective in actually getting plus yardage in returns. Then kick returns, another thing that you have to circle, because Purdue averages 30 yards per kick return. That's a pretty gaudy number. As a matter of fact, that's second in the Big Ten and second in the country. They've got the number 2 kickoff return group in the country. Nebraska's not bad in being 5th in the Big Ten, averaging 23 and a half yards of return. That's 30th in the country, but it's not second. And then a number that will play out, because when teams that are struggling and teams that are trying to find their identity, a stat that always pops up is penalties. That Purdue averages just over 6 penalties a game, which is 11th. Nebraska just under 5.8, which is 9th, and it's important. And then the yardage, both teams are averaging 50 yards a game in penalty yards, which is about 25 too much if you're trying to play good, solid, winning football. Turnovers gained, 9 for Purdue, 7 for Nebraska. Turnovers lost, both of these teams will tell you their numbers are too high. 10 for Purdue in turnovers lost, 15 for Nebraska. Those numbers play, and those numbers have value. So through most of what we just talked about, the running game of Purdue versus Nebraska's run defense, Nebraska's run game and its ability to sustain drives and keep Purdue's passing game on the sideline. Some of the numbers, some of the names are names that we know and we're familiar with. This is not a Purdue team that lacks talent. What they haven't figured out is how to finish games and how to keep things under control. But that's a part of Big Ten football, is trying to figure out how to manage personnel, how to manage schemes, how to manage in-game play calling and adjustments when it comes to personnel. And, of course, putting points on the board when you get in the red zone. Big things in detail, positive yards that you can get in special teams. That's going to play a big part as well. Lots to it. We'll go over some of the names that you need to pay attention to when it comes to Purdue. We'll talk about those when we come back to Locked On. Hey, gang, thank you for making Locked On your first watch and listen each and every single day. Your Huskers every day. I thank you for subscribing to Locked On Huskers, for showing up for Locked On Huskers. Greatly appreciate it. There are a few things in the numbers, right? That Ryan Walters in his first year as a head coach, 2-5 so far. Of course, he's familiar with Memorial Stadium and the crowds and what's going to be expected of his players. They're coming off a terrible loss against Ohio State. They gave up 41 points to the Buckeyes, and it didn't land well in West Lafayette. It really didn't. To find out in a first year, you want your team to be competitive. Nebraska fans certainly understand that. But look, it's all a part of what happens. And for Nebraska, a lot of this is, how do we match up? What things can we take away? What are the win advantages in some of the personnel matchups? And Nebraska truly has to focus, because with new personnel, new starters all over the field, some returning starters all over the field, different players being available on the depth chart, who's available, having a new left tackle and a new left guard and a new right guard. 3 of the 5 positions are new on the offensive line. Emmett Johnson has seemed to step up and become RB1, with Anthony Grant being RB2 and Joshua Fleeks behind that. What does it mean? Well, it gives you a difference. They said that today in the presser that he was picking up pass pros, that Emmett Johnson was more effective in the pass protection He's really good at ball protection as well, and that's probably why he has advanced and elevated as much as he could. There's still lots to work on if you're Nebraska. This Purdue team is not an untalented team. This is not a group that's going to come in and fear Nebraska and feel like, wow, this should be a cakewalk, and I don't know why we showed up today. I would imagine they walk into Memorial Stadium with every belief and every feeling that they're going to be just fine, that they have every opportunity to win because a lot of the guys on that team have already beaten Nebraska. They've already had that level of success. The person who hasn't is the head coach. And that is vital and that it matters. A couple of things as we set it up to go. With new receivers in the starting lineup, new players in play, listen, to feel good about this team being 4-3, 100% is how you should feel if you're a Husker fan. Feel good about it. This is earned and deserved, and in previous years, a lot of the wins that happened this year would have gone left and wouldn't have happened for Nebraska. Some of the vibe and the feeling that, well, this program is snake bit. There's somebody put a spell on us. Well, you're 4-3. Nebraska is 4-3 with the opportunity to go 5-3, one win away from bowl eligibility if they can get this win, and then the chance to look forward and feel good about the program. This would be a 3-game winning streak for the Huskers. I can't tell you the last time there was a 3-game win streak. But circle the names: Justin Evans-Jenkins at left guard, Teddy Prohaska at left tackle, Henry Lutovsky at right guard. All of that's in play. Jaden Doss in the slot for Billy Kemp. Alex Bullock and Jalen Lloyd getting work. Malachi Coleman and Ty Hahn getting work. Emmett Johnson getting work. The numbers on defense, I'll start to ponder for you, and I'll ask your opinion. How many points does Nebraska have to score to be guaranteed a win against Purdue at home? I'm not sure what that number is. I'm sure Marcus Satterfield has got his work cut out for him over the next few hours to figure out how many points does Nebraska need to securely feel like they can win this game at home on Saturday. And if so, how many points will be dictated, who the best player is, who are we scheming to get the ball to, and how. We'll match up Nebraska's offense and Purdue's defense tomorrow. Yes, we will. But that'll do it for this episode of Locked On Huskers. Thank you for making Locked On Huskers the first watch and listen each and every single day. We'll close with the 3 words we love so much. Go Big Red.